And hey, you know what? It's my turn to take it in a different direction. We're going to do Natalie Merchant, who we've covered two times as a member of the 10,000 Maniacs. We're going to be doing her solo debut, Tigerlilly. In the opener, you heard the big, well, there were multiple singles off this, but the big one, Carnival. And now you're going to hear a little bit of one of the non singles, San Andreas Fault.
Your pale blue eyes, strawberry hair, lips so sweet, skin so fair, your future bright, beyond compare, it's rights to riches over there.
All right, Matt, numbers, please.
Yeah, Tigerlilly by Natalie Merchant comes in at number 651 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 75 in 1995, 1,837 of all time. It is Natalie Merchant's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. It did not make Rolling Stone's list, and Natalie Merchant is ranked number 1,725 of overall artists on Best Ever Albums.
Okay, so Natalie Merchant, born October 26, 1963, which makes her 61 years young, in Jamestown, New York. How familiar are you with Jamestown, New York, Matt? It's
Not
listed
at
as
all, John.
Upstate New York. Okay,
There's a
gotcha.
lot of towns in upstate New York, most
There
of
is.
which
It's-
I am unaware
It's
of.
the
Unfamiliar
Montana of the Northeast, I
It
think
sure
is what we would call New York. So to go back to a call back to earlier in the episode, she is the third of four children of Anthony and Ann Merchant. She does have musicians in her family. When she was young, her mom listened to lots and lots of music. She says Petula Clark, the Beatles, Al Green, Aretha Franklin. So she's sort of raised on all of the classics. But she does, in the way that so many like bands that Matt and Josh love, like also will mention they listen to Kiss in a way that disappoints everybody that hates Kiss, right? Like I think this was a funny anecdote like this. Natalie Merchant was not allowed to watch TV, but she said she was taken to symphony a lot, but she was eventually, when she was 12 years old, she was taken to see Styx. And she said, we had to drive 100 miles to Buffalo.
Wow.
Someone threw up next to me and people were smoking pot. It was terrifying. I remember Styx had a white piano which rose out of the stage. It was awe-inspiring and inspirational to me as an artist. So I thought that was funny. She's got great quotes. She's like talks about how Bob Dylan is there, how like Show Tunes did it. So yeah. And so kind of when she's very young. So remember, she's born in 1963. In 1981, so if you put it together, she's all of 18 years old. She is a student at Jamestown Community College in New York, and she meets the other members of the 10,000 Maniacs and joins the band. And she is in the band from 1981 to 1993, from their solo album to their last recording, which was the MTV Unplugged album. So the last song she ever did as a member of the 10,000 Maniacs and playing with them was Because the Night, the cover from Bruce Springsteen that then ended up becoming the 10,000 Maniacs highest charting song. So
Yeah.
Congratulations, we're on our way out. Here's our highest charting song. So after this, she kind of at this time was itching to record her own songs. They parted on relatively good terms, I'd say, but kind of she made it clear she wasn't ever going back. And, you know, unfortunately, some members of the band have passed away, so the original lineup can't come back. But she said she was so eager to record material that the day that she broke up with the 10,000 Maniacs, she went home and started writing songs for the album. And the first song she wrote was a song called I May Know the Word, which was supposed to be on the soundtrack of the Philadelphia soundtrack, the movie, which already had some, I think it had two songs nominated for Oscars that year, the Neil Young and the Bruce Springsteen songs, both were that year. But the songs that she wrote during that session became Tigerlilly. And Tigerlilly was successful. It peaked at number 13 on the Billboard 200. It was 5 times platinum. As certified by the RIAA in 2001. It's crazy when an album only gets to number 13 on the Billboard 200 and sells 5 million copies. It was a different time, wasn't it? It also had three top 25 hits on the Billboard Top 100. Carnival at number 10, Wonder at number 20, and Jealousy at number 23, and they all had videos along with it. The song River is a tribute to River Phoenix. And there's a lot of different stuff here. One kind of like creepy like analogy is that the female serial killer Eileen Wuornos, I think probably most well known, right, for that Charlize Theron movie, Monster, I think was about her. She asked that Carnival be played at her funeral, and it was in there. So I mean,
Jeez.
the vibe feels a little different, but it's there. Natalie Merchant and the 10,000 Maniacs are so fascinating, like critically, because the people that like them are like them quite a bit, but the people that hate them, man, they really hate. Like, there's something that really, I think, rubbed a certain type of rock critic the wrong way about Natalie Merchant. Like, I kind of attribute it to the fact that she was like feminine in a way that wasn't like sex status, you know what I mean? So she wasn't like a rock and roll star or whatever. She also was very earnest, which is something a lot of these like cynical guys don't like. But I'm always reminded there's a lot of really bad press written about Natalie Merchant at that time in terms of like bad faith type of arguments about her, like kind of like, you know, she's not a great songwriter, her stuff is trite, you know, they're always trying to like figure out like, is she hot or not, you know, because you can't quite figure out what she is, you know, like a lot of these things that they do not age well. And so I do think that like the reviews of the album are fascinating because they run from like a real step forward to her as an artist. She just takes what it is all the way to like, this is, you know, sanctimonious and I hate it, right? Like all the way along the way. So retrospectively, it's kind of one of these things that like women in particular have really picked up and run with. And I think a lot of the people that really hated this, like kind of critics like them, don't really exist as much in music anymore. So it is interesting, like kind of to see the take on this. Anyway, I went longer on that than I thought. Her band behind her, by the way, is Jennifer Turner, is the guitarist for all the songs. She does both the electric and the acoustic. And when you have background vocals, it's her. Peter Yanowitz does the drums, and Barry Maguire, when needed, plays the bass guitar and the 12-string electric to back up Jennifer Turner. There's a host of other musicians on this album as well. There's a violinist, a cellist, an organ player, and a variety of other things as well. So, Tigerlilly by Natalie Merchant, certainly an album I'm familiar with. Matt, what'd you think of this one?
I was not familiar with the album, though I was familiar with the singles. And I, going into this, I remember really liking the singles, particularly Carnival and Wonder. There's something about the juxtaposition of those two songs as well, because Wonder's kind of like, at least sonically, you know, Wonder's a really kind of upbeat, kind of light, you know, happy sounding song, and Carnival's kind of like this, like a darker, almost like a trip hoppy kind of vibe. So I just thought that the contrast of those two songs were pretty cool. And as this album, I loved it. This hit me all the right spots this week, you know, just very, from the first track, San Andreas Fault, you know, I really enjoyed the vibe of this record. For the most part, it's more of a, it's a quieter, somber sounding, little melancholy record overall, little pensive, and mellow, but it's just musically, it just sounds so great. I really love Natalie Merchant's voice, and I didn't get bored with this album at all. I really liked, probably the standout songs that I wasn't that familiar with were San Andreas Fault. Thought it started off with a really solid song there. Really liked the song River. And I May Know the Word. Man, what a song. There's like Pink Floyd vibes in that song. Like the way they do the production, the like later Pink Floyd, kind of mellow Pink Floyd, little ambient type sound effects going on there, and a great guitar solo at the end. I loved how she just stayed with that song and kind of built it up to a really nice, minute and a half, 2 minute long kind of instrumental that really, kind of built the song up without going over the top or anything. It's not like I think they probably could have gone a little bit longer with the guitar solo. I was really feeling that, but I also kind of liked the fact that it was, it was a little tempered, right? It didn't go full blown all out, but, I think what is it? Where I Go, is that sounded straight up like a Joni Mitchell song. Like just like the acoustic guitar, it sounded like something from Blue or whatever. But
there's a lot of Joni Mitchell on this album, I feel.
Yeah,
like
and I was thinking about that. Like, I just like her I just like Natalie Merchant's music better, than Joni. The female singer songwriter type thing. Like, I know Joni Mitchell certainly was in the driver's seat and kind of, starting a lot of that and influencing a lot of artists. It just didn't, her music just never really resonated with me, but this certainly does. I love the production here. And I was really surprised to see that this album was kind of panned, guys. Like, like 1.5 stars by Rolling Stone, 2 stars by Q, 3 out of 10 from Spin. And it's like, what the hell's wrong with this? Like, I don't know. Maybe they. Yeah. I didn't really read any of the reviews in depth.
I mean, I tried to give you in the bio that, like, I definitely think she never complained about it, but I think she had as fair a argument to sexism as just about anybody in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think she triggered the same type of people that we see getting triggered by women today, whether they admit it or not. You know what I mean, Matt? Like, she's a certain. Yeah, she's not definable in the way that a lot of men would like to define women. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them, like All Music was 4.5 stars, so that was pretty good. The Guardian was 4 stars, so but most of them were.
You cut out, Matt.
I think we lost Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hit my mouse by accident.
Okay.
But so some of these are actually kind of positive. All Music was. Did you hear me say that? All Music was 5.
Yeah.
Or 4.5. Okay. But I don't know. I really felt the vibe of this. I really, I think that this is another album that can be, I would enjoy a lot in the evening or in the morning or anytime, just in the car. Like, there's a lot of different areas to listen to this. Probably not at a big banging party or something like that, but I'm not really going to many of those these days. So this can kind of be on regular rotation for me. Exactly. Yeah. So, really enjoyed it. This was a nice little, I'm not surprised how much I'm not surprised that I liked it. I'm surprised maybe by how much I did like it. Like, I didn't find any dead weight in here at all, and that's saying something. So big thumbs up. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it wasn't a case, Sean, too, of like the 10,000 Maniacs being like really well loved and like they're scoffing at her going solo or something, right?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. Yeah, just curious about that.
I think she was viewed as the star for a very long time of that band.
Okay.
So if anybody, you know what I mean? The breakup off was pretty...
Yeah. Name me one other 10,000 Maniac aside from Natalie Merchant.
Well, there's 999,000 more, so...
Yeah.
I'm with you, Matt. I really like this album this week. I feel similar to how I did with 10,000 Maniacs. Natalie Merchant is such a strong presence. I think she has such a lovely voice, and it really carries me through the entire album. I also really liked the band, the backing band on this. I feel like they are really strong and highlight her singing and put her in the spotlight. I also like that it's not just... I think with a lot of female singer-songwriters, if she would be classified as that, it's often just the singer and an acoustic guitar. And I really like how they do kind of incorporate not only like a lot of different sounds, but there seems to be layers to the songs. They try and do, they have some different instruments like a piano. They have the violin in Cowboy Romance. That's kind of like a country-ish song. Where I Go, Matt called out. I like that song too. So she does, there's different music, but also like she does some different things with her voice, and I feel like that's a lot for me and enough for me on this album. I knew all the big singles. I feel like those were played. I mean, John said they were in the top 25, right? So I heard them all the time. I feel like, to the point probably at that time where I was like, okay, enough of Natalie Merchant, at least on some of them. But going back and hearing them, I really enjoyed it. Even Jealousy has that. I love that kind of great opening that she has of her just singing into it. And I remember the Carnival video as well. That was played a lot. So yeah, this is, she's always been, of the female singer-songwriters that we've talked about, and there's been many, I feel like she's in the kind of upper tier for me of ones that I've responded to well. And this album's no different, so thumbs up for me on this one.
Yeah, count me as a third. I know I was a lot higher on Joni Mitchell than you guys were when we covered her, but that's the first thing I thought of when I heard this album in full for the first time in a while. Like now that I've kind of listened to, I think we've done 4 Joni Mitchell albums from the 70s, and I can definitely see the DNA lineage there. Like trying on different, like Matt said, there's a song that has like a little bit of a Pink Floyd vibe out guitar at the end, like full on like psychedelic jam guitar at this. There's stuff that would be adult contemporary, but like high end adult contemporary. There's stuff that's surprisingly rockin'. There's one song that still has a little bit of the jangle of the 10,000 Maniacs. There's ballads, a lot of different stuff. And she's incorporating a lot of different sounds. And that's something I always associate with Joni Mitchell, along with like deeply personal lyrics. Something that Natalie Merchant writes here. I know I've joked in the past about like earnest lyrics in some cases, but for whatever reason, it works with Natalie Merchant because her whole presence is sort of like Earth Mother a little bit, and like the female form of empathy is kind of like what her voice sounds like to me, right? There's like this incredibly like warm and soothing aspect to Natalie Merchant's voice that's almost like an opiate to me, kind of, but not in a bore. It's just instant calm comes this week. And I was, after the holiday season, I was a little sped up, and it was funny. Like I put this album on and it was just sort of like, suddenly it felt like, you know, you take a gummy or something, you know what I mean? But in like all the good ways, not like, oh, it takes me out of it, but it just felt warm and, you know, comforting. And so I think because of that, the earnestness works for Natalie Merchant. And there's really no one who sounds like Natalie Merchant. Her voice is so distinctive. In fact, how I know her voice is so distinctive is my mom, who does not love 10,000 Maniacs or Natalie Merchant as much, like can recognize her voice instantaneously and like along the way. But my sister and I both have talked about like how her voice is just one you seek out at certain times. And I always thought she kind of got like I kind of articulated that earlier. I just always felt she got a bad rap because she believes her stuff, right? She's very earnest. She's very strident in her like sort of left-wing political viewpoints. She's kind of like a liberal that doesn't exist anymore, like one that doesn't really become a hypocrite because their beliefs are very earnest, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm not even saying that because I don't lean left. I do, in case you're listening. That's where it is, but not that you have to. But I think it's more just there aren't a lot of people like her that's like, I'm going to recycle and live in an area with like a sustainable, you know, thing. And I hate war and I hate the death penalty, you know, and these are things that are like core moral beliefs for me because like I'm a humanist. And maybe that's what I'm trying to say. She's kind of like a humanist and you don't see too many of them anymore. So I just think a lot of that earnestness goes in with that. And I think because she was in that lane where she was, you know, she was pretty enough to be pretty, where people were like, why don't you play that up, right? But not so traditionally pretty that the people who wanted pure aesthetics could give it. She was feminine, but in a way that like a lot of men I don't think understood, because she was sort of writing from like a motherhood getting older thing. She famously like did not dye her hair when she went gray, right? Because she's like, I'm not doing any of that, right? Along the way, which is sounds like it shouldn't be a thing, but like it is, you know, very few people, even those that are the least image conscious, like don't make that decision at times. So I've always just liked her as a person. Michael Stipe says that in the late 80s, she was who sort of made his songs and his image a little bit more political. They like sort of informally dated in the 80s, which is interesting on multiple levels, but they stayed friends the entire time. So nice little story there. And there just aren't a lot of people like her in music, right? They just, because a lot of, I think these people just, they don't have long careers if you're like this, or they present as like hippie type figures, you know? And she's kind of not in that lane either. She's a whole different thing. So it's a long way of me saying thumbs up. I really like this album, guys.
Yeah. And I wanted to say this as well. Like one of the things I really liked about this record and her vocals in particular is how well she sings blended into the music, but also like the choices that she makes of how to like fluctuate the notes that she's holding on to, and the way that like some of the chords and some of the notes really kind of like come
Yep.
together and resolve. It's really interesting. It's like musically, and I'm not
Jealousy is a
intelligent
great
enough.
example of that, Matt. Like,
Yeah,
the blending she does and the transitioning from part to part. Mhm.
Yeah, and just like holding these notes and then kind of like going a little up or a little down in a way that's like, ooh, I wasn't expecting that, right? She kind of surprises you in several ways, but when she does it, it's really welcomed. It's like, oh, of course that's where you got to go. Like, yes.
And she
like,
does
she's-
that in the 10,000 Maniacs too. You know, like where she gets really
Yeah.
fast at times or breathy. You know, she could go thin and then really verbose. Like, you're right, Matt. She like runs scales.
It's all of it, right? Like she's just it's as a vocalist, I just found it, and I don't know, maybe this happens to other vocalists as well, and I just don't pay enough attention to it. But it really stood out to me this week about just how well she puts together the song with her vocals in particular, and just the structure. It's just great. It's just really great, interesting notes and harmonies and chords and stuff that are going on there. So that really added to it for me.
Well, and I'll add one thing, Matt, because I always remember the Unplugged, you know, that I know you're familiar with as well.
Yeah.
And I always am reminded, like, Because the Night, right? Like how slow she comes in on that song, like sort of like the same way Springsteen does, but like a female version of it. And then like she goes through that one point where she's like basically singing as fast as possible, and then she has that like take me now, and her voice breaks, you know, and like because she's going up and down. And even I'm Not the Man, the Death Penalty song, where she not the I'm Not the Man, the song about child abuse, What's the Matter Here, right? When she like goes into that run toward the end, when she's like, you know, and all that you said and I do just because to do, because she belongs to you. Know what I mean? She goes so fast and then slows it down and goes up and down. That's another really good example of like, how she does that. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
Double shot of Josh.